The Galactic Council's emergency session was in its fourth rotation, and Elder Vox was losing patience. Represented by holographic avatars, hundreds of species filled the vast virtual chamber, their concerns filling the transmission channels. With static. "Order!" bellowed Vox, his crystalline exoskeleton flashing warning patterns. "We must address the Scourge before another system falls." The Scourge, a ravenous insectoid species that consumed everything in its path, had already devoured 3 inhabited worlds. Traditional military responses had failed spectacularly. The creatures adapted too quickly, their hive mind seemingly anticipating every tactic the Council forces deployed. "The Scourge has evolved past our weaponry," stated Admiral Trill, her tendrils waving in distress. "Our scientists estimate 17 more worlds will fall within the standard year." A murmur of despair rippled through the assembly. "There may be an unconventional solution," offered Representative Mech, his voice hesitant. "There exists a species in the Outer Rim. They call themselves humans. They have a peculiar history with pest control." The chamber erupted in dismissive noise. "Silence," commanded Vox. "Continue, Mech. Humans evolved on a death world classified as Earth. Their history is one of constant battle against threats we would consider apocalyptic. Particularly noteworthy is their relationship with insects and small predators." Mech transferred data to the Council's shared consciousness. Images flashed. Humans combating swarms of locusts, eradicating disease-carrying mosquitoes, developing countermeasures against rodents and invasive species. "Most remarkably," Mech continued, "they've nearly driven several species to extinction, accidentally, simply by existing in proximity to them." "You suggest we recruit these humans as exterminators?" Admiral Trill's voice dripped with skepticism. "I suggest," Mech replied carefully, "that we consider a species that has fought its entire evolutionary history against threats similar to the Scourge. They may see patterns we cannot." Elder Vox's central eye narrowed. "What classification are these humans?" "That's the issue, Elder. They're unclassified. They were discovered only recently when one of their primitive vessels crossed into Pelleran space. The Pellerans report they are unpredictable." "Dangerous?" asked Vox. "The humans defeated a Pelleran border patrol using what appeared to be retrofitted mining equipment and improvised weapons," Mech replied. When questioned about the encounter, the human captain seemed genuinely apologetic, claiming they thought they were being robbed by space pirates. The Council chamber fell silent. "A species that defeats Pelleran military vessels with mining equipment," Admiral Trill mused. "Fascinating." "They are resourceful," Mech agreed. "And they have an odd cultural obsession with eliminating what they call pests." Elder Vox rose to his full height. "Contact these humans. If they can help us against the Scourge, the Council will reward them appropriately. Admiral Trill, dispatch an emissary immediately." As the Council adjourned, none could have predicted that this decision would fundamentally alter the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The universe had been seeking pest control, and it was about to meet humanity's peculiar talent for extermination. Captain Jack Reed stared at the holographic alien hovering above the bridge of the mining vessel Exterminator. The name, once an inside joke among the crew, all former pest control specialists who'd taken to space mining during Earth's economic crisis, now seemed prophetic. "Let me get this straight," Jack said slowly. "You want us to help you kill giant space bugs?" Admiral Trill's translator struggled with the colloquialism. "The Scourge is a highly evolved hive mind species consuming entire ecosystems. They are not merely bugs, but they're insectoid, 6 legs, exoskeletons, swarm behavior," pressed Mira, the ship's biologist and former termite specialist. "Essentially, yes." Jack exchanged glances with his crew. Tom, the weapons officer, formerly specialized in rodent elimination, was already grinning. Raj, their engineer and one-time mosquito abatement expert, was furiously taking notes. "And your advanced civilizations can't handle this. Why exactly?" Jack asked. Admiral Trill's hologram shifted uncomfortably. "The Scourge adapts to our conventional weaponry. Our scientists theorize that they can sense energy patterns and evolve countermeasures within days. So big guns don't work," Jack summarized. "What about biological controls? Predators, disease?" "Attempted. Failed," The scourge assimilates biological threats and incorporates useful genetic material. Chemical approaches? Our chemical sciences are perhaps not as aggressive as yours appear to be, Admiral Trill admitted. Jack leaned back in his captain's chair. Because you never had to deal with cockroaches in Manhattan. I do not understand the reference. Never mind. What's in it for us? The hologram straightened. The Galactic Council offers advanced technology, rare minerals, and protection status for your species. Protection status? Mira raised an eyebrow. Your species is currently unclassified. Several council races have suggested you be designated as potentially hazardous. Tom snorted. They're not wrong. Jack silenced him with a look. Admiral, we're just a mining crew with pest control backgrounds. We're not soldiers. Precisely why we seek your assistance. The scourge has defeated our soldiers. Perhaps it will not adapt to exterminators. Jack considered the proposal. Their mining operation was barely profitable, and Earth's economy remained unstable. Advanced alien technology could change everything for humanity. We'll need to see these bugs up close, and I want full access to your data on previous attempts to stop them. Admiral Trill's hologram flickered with what might have been relief. Acceptable. A transport vessel will rendezvous with your coordinates in 12 hours. Prepare your team and equipment. After the transmission ended, the bridge fell silent until Raj spoke up. Captain, are we seriously considering this? We're not just considering it, we're doing it, Jack replied, standing up. Mira, analyze everything they send us about these scourge things. Tom, inventory our pest control equipment. Raj, I want you to figure out how to scale up our old techniques. We're going to need bigger canisters, Tom muttered. Much bigger, Jack agreed. But the principles are the same. Find the nest, identify the queen, eliminate the reproductive capacity, mop up the remnants. Simple, Mira said sarcastically. No, Jack corrected her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Not simple, but necessary. And exactly what we trained for, just on a larger scale. As the crew dispersed to prepare, Jack stared out at the stars. Humanity had spent its existence fighting to carve out space on a planet teeming with competitors. Now the galaxy would see what humans could do when pointed at a common enemy. The Galactic Council observation deck buzzed with nervous energy as the human vessel docked with the flagship. Elder Vox and Admiral Trill watched the proceedings with a mixture of hope and apprehension. They brought such a small ship, Trill noted, barely larger than a scout vessel. Size is not always indicative of effectiveness, Vox replied, though he too felt a twinge of doubt. The airlock cycled, and 5 humans entered the deck. They wore simple utilitarian jumpsuits rather than the expected military uniforms or protective gear. More concerning were the primitive-looking devices they carried: metal tanks with hoses, handheld sprayers, and what appeared to be mechanical traps. Jack stepped forward and offered a hand, a gesture that confused the council representatives, until their cultural database provided context. Captain Jack Reed, he introduced himself as Admiral Trill, awkwardly extended a tendril to complete the handshake. This is my team. Mira, our biologist. Tom, weapons. Raj, engineering. And Doc, our medic. We expected more personnel, Trill admitted. Quality over quantity, Jack replied easily. We've studied your data. Your military threw thousands of troops at the problem. That didn't work. We're taking a different approach. Elder. Vox gestured toward their equipment. These are your weapons against the scourge? Tools, not weapons, corrected Mira. We're not soldiers, we're exterminators. There's a difference. And what is that difference precisely? Asked Vox. Tom stepped forward. Soldiers kill enemies. Exterminators eliminate invasive species by understanding their biology and behavior patterns. Different mindset, different methods. The council representatives exchanged glances. We've prepared a simulation chamber, Admiral Trill said, changing the subject. We've recreated a scourge environment based on drone footage from the fallen worlds. The humans followed their hosts to a vast chamber. Through a transparent barrier, they could see an alien landscape crawling with insectoid creatures ranging from the size of rats to that of small cars. The ground was covered with a glistening organic material resembling a cross between fungus and honeycomb. "Is this live?" Jack asked, pressing a hand against the barrier. "No. These are cloned specimens in a controlled environment," Trill explained. "Even these juvenile drones are extremely dangerous." Doc, who had been quiet until now, moved closer to the barrier. "They're building something. See the patterns?" The others gathered to look. Indeed, the smaller creatures appeared to be constructing elaborate tunnels, while larger ones transported materials. "Classic colony behavior," Mira observed. "But I don't see anything resembling a queen." "The scourge. Reproductive nodes remain hidden deep within their hive structures," Vox explained. "We've never managed to penetrate far enough to reach one." Jack turned to his crew. "Thoughts?" "Reminds me of fire ants," Tom offered. "Aggressive, organized, adaptable." "Mixed with termites," added Raj. "Look at those construction patterns." Mira was taking readings with a handheld device. "Their biochemistry is silicon-carbon-based. Interesting. Can we get a specimen to examine?" Doc asked. The council representatives appeared uncomfortable with the request, but eventually agreed. A robotic arm extracted one of the smaller creatures and delivered it to a containment unit. As the humans gathered around to examine their quarry, Jack noticed the council members watching them with fascination, as if the humans themselves were the more interesting specimens in the room. "We'll need to test different compounds," Mira said after completing her preliminary analysis, "and figure out their communication methods." "Good," Jack nodded. "Tom, Raj, start modifying our equipment based on Mira's findings. Doc, I want to know weaknesses in their physiology." He turned back to the council representatives. "And we'll need to see actual combat footage. We need to understand how they react under threat." As the humans set to work with surprising efficiency, Elder Vox leaned toward Admiral Trill. "They approach this so methodically," he whispered. "Not with fear or aggression, but with professional curiosity." "Yes," Trill agreed. Perhaps Mech was right about them after all. Neither of them mentioned the unsettling gleam they'd noticed in the humans' eyes. A predatory focus that made it momentarily unclear who was truly the more dangerous species in the room. 3 days later, the human team presented their findings to the Galactic Council's War Committee. The Grand Chamber, designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, fell silent as Jack activated a holographic display. "The Scourge operates on 3 core principles," he began. "First, they communicate using pheromone trails and subsonic vibrations. Second, they build their colonies around central nodes that process resources. Third, and most importantly, they have a distributed reproductive system." "Meaning?" asked Counselor Zan, a gaseous entity confined within an environmental suit. "No single queen," Mira explained. "Multiple reproductive units that activate based on colony needs. That's why killing portions of their forces never worked. You never hit the reproductive centers." Admiral Trill's appendages twitched with frustration. "We've lost entire fleets trying to penetrate their defenses to find these centers." "You were thinking too directly," Tom said. "Frontal assault never works with hive species. You need to trick them." Jack nodded. "We've developed a 3-phase plan we call IPM, Integrated Pest Management. First, biological control." He nodded to Mira, who took over the presentation. "We've engineered a modified bacteriophage that targets their communication cells. It won't kill them, but it will disrupt their ability to coordinate. Second phase," continued Raj, "is habitat modification. We deploy these." He held up what looked like a simple metal sphere. "Thermal disruptors. They'll gradually alter the environmental conditions in ways the Scourge won't immediately detect, but will significantly impact their reproduction rates. And finally," Tom concluded, "targeted elimination using this." He patted a canister at his side. "A compound we've synthesized that breaks down their exoskeletons. It's delivered as an aerosol that they'll carry back to their reproductive centers." The council representatives looked skeptical. "This seems primitive," Counselor Zan observed. "Elegantly simple," Jack corrected. "Your advanced energy weapons and battleships failed because the Scourge could detect and adapt to them. Our approach uses their own behavior patterns against them." "And you believe this will work where our military might has failed?" Elder Vox asked. "We know it will," Jack stated confidently. "Because we've already tested it on your simulation. Chamber specimens. Mortality rate, 100% within 48 hours. A murmur spread through the chamber. Admiral Trill leaned forward. When can you deploy against an actual scourge colony? Immediately, Jack replied. But we have conditions. Conditions? Vox's crystalline structure flashed with concern. We want humanity recognized as a full member of the Galactic Council, not just a protected species. And we want exclusive rights to the reclamation of the cleared worlds. The chamber erupted in objections. Elder Vox raised his appendages for silence. You ask for much, humans, for untested theories. Jack smiled. Then let us prove our methods. One world. If we clear it, our terms stand. Admiral Trill and Elder Vox conferred briefly before turning back to the humans. The scourge-infested moon of Proxys 4 will be your proving ground, Vox announced. It's a small colony, recently overtaken. If you succeed there, we will consider your terms. We'll need to modify your ship, Jack said, and we'll want a council observer. I will accompany you, Admiral Trill volunteered, surprising everyone. As you are. The council session adjourned. Doc pulled Jack aside. They're still underestimating us, aren't they? Jack watched the council representatives filing out, their movements betraying their doubt. Completely. They think we're using primitive methods because we're technologically inferior. They don't understand that we've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing things that try to compete with us for resources, Doc said quietly. Let's keep it that way, Jack replied. At least until we've secured humanity's place in the galaxy. The approach to Proxys 4 was eerily quiet. The exterminator, now retrofitted with Council technology, maintained orbit around the small moon, as Jack and Admiral Trill observed the surface from the command deck. It's worse than the reports indicated, Trill said, her voice subdued. The once vibrant mining colony was now covered in the characteristic honeycomb-like structures of the scourge. Massive organic towers rose from the surface, connected by pulsating pathways that glowed with bioluminescence. Perfect, Jack said, earning a startled look from Trill. The more established they are, the more committed they'll be to defending the location. Mira joined them at the viewport. Scans confirm heavy infestation throughout the northern hemisphere. The former colony center appears to be their primary hive. Admiral, Jack turned to Trill. We'll need you to maintain orbit and monitor our progress. Under no circumstances should you approach the surface until we give the all-clear. You intend to land. Trill's appendages trembled slightly. Our forces lost 300 soldiers attempting ground operations. Your soldiers tried to kill them directly, Tom explained as he entered, carrying equipment. We're just going to visit the neighborhood and leave some housewarming gifts. The human team prepared their landing craft, a small, nimble vessel, designed to minimize detection. They loaded their specialized equipment, each piece now enhanced with Council technology, but still fundamentally based on Earth's pest control methods. Remember, Jack briefed his team, we're not engaging directly. Plant the phage dispensers at the locations Mira identified. Set the thermal disruptors along the perimeter, then get out. The aerosol deployment comes afterward, from orbit. As the landing craft detached from the exterminator, Admiral Trill watched with a mixture of admiration and concern. These humans were either brilliantly innovative or suicidally overconfident. The descent to Proxys 4 was tense but uneventful. Jack piloted the craft to land 3 kilometers from the main hive structure, in the shadow of a rocky outcropping. Air's toxic, Raj reported, checking the external sensors. Suits on, everyone. The team donned environmental suits modified with reinforced plating, a precaution against the scourge's acidic secretions. One by one, they exited the craft carrying their specialized equipment. The landscape was nightmarish. What had once been a thriving mining operation was now an alien ecosystem. The ground squelched beneath their boots, covered in a film of organic matter that seemed to pulse rhythmically. Like walking on a giant lung, Doc muttered. Stay focused, Jack ordered. Mira, take point. Tom, rear guard. They moved silently toward the first deployment location. Occasionally, smaller scourge drones scuttled past, but remarkably, they paid little attention to the humans. They don't recognize us as threats, Mira observed softly. Their threat assessment is keyed to energy weapons in large groups. Lucky us, Tom replied, keeping his weapon ready nonetheless. At the first designated location, a junction where several organic pathways converged, Mira carefully placed a phage dispenser. The device, no larger than a shoebox, immediately camouflaged itself to match the surrounding organic matter. 1 down, 11 to go, Jack said. They continued their methodical work, planting the biological agents at key points around the colony. Each dispenser would release engineered bacteriophages that would infect the scourge's communication cells, gradually rendering them unable to coordinate. The thermal disruptors came next, placed in a wide perimeter. These devices would subtly alter the environmental temperature and humidity, conditions the humans had discovered were critical for scourge reproduction. Their mission was nearly complete when disaster struck. A massive tremor shook the ground, causing Raj to stumble directly into the path of a large scourge drone. The creature immediately reared up, its mandibles clicking furiously. "Don't move," Jack ordered as everyone froze. In place, the drone circled Raj, antennae waving. Then, to everyone's horror, it emitted a high-pitched sound that was quickly answered by multiple similar calls in the distance. "We've been made," Tom said grimly, raising his weapon. "No!" Jack countermanded. "Stick to the plan. Fall back to the ship. Now!" The retreat to the landing craft became a nightmare as scourge drones converged from all directions. The team moved in tight formation, avoiding direct confrontation where possible. "We've placed enough dispensers," Jack called over the comm. "If we can get back to orbit, the plan can still work." A massive drone, nearly the size of their landing craft, burst from the ground directly in their path. Its carapace gleamed iridescently, mandibles large enough to sever a human in half. "That's new," Tom remarked, raising his weapon. "I don't remember these guys from the briefing." "Guardian caste," Mira replied tensely. "They must have evolved them recently," the creature charged. Tom fired his modified pest control sprayer, now capable of projecting a concentrated stream of the exoskeleton-dissolving compound. The liquid hit the creature's face, immediately beginning to smoke and bubble as it ate through the protective shell. The Guardian screeched in pain but didn't fall. Instead, its outer layer began to harden and change color. "It's adapting," Mira shouted. "The compound structure, it's changing it somehow." "Run," Jack ordered. "To the left!" The team veered around the thrashing Guardian, now joined by more of its kind emerging from the honeycombed ground. They sprinted the final kilometer to their landing craft, pursued by a growing swarm. "Get it started," Jack yelled as they reached the vessel. Raj jumped aboard first, heading straight for the controls while the others provided covering fire. As the engines hummed to life, Jack made a crucial decision. "Change of plans. Tom, Mira, deploy the aerosol now." "But the dispersal pattern won't cover the entire colony," Mira objected. "We don't need it to," Jack replied grimly. "We just need to buy time. Do it." Tom slammed his hand on a control panel. From the rear of their craft, canisters ejected, immediately releasing a dense cloud of particulates designed to disrupt the scourge's exoskeleton integrity. The effect was immediate. The closest drones began to convulse, their outer shells cracking and dissolving. But as Mira had predicted, the creatures at the periphery were already showing signs of adaptation, their carapaces darkening to resist the compound. The landing. Craft lurched upward, barely escaping the grasping claws of the Guardian caste. As they accelerated toward orbit, the comm system crackled with Admiral Trill's frantic voice. "Humans! Our sensors detect massive scourge activity. What happened?" "Slight change of plans," Jack replied calmly, despite their near miss. "We need to move to Phase 3 immediately. But your biological agents haven't had time to—" "Trust me, Admiral. Prepare the exterminator for the orbital deployment. We're coming in hot." As they docked with the main ship, Admiral Trill met them with her appendages waving in distress. "The Scourge are mobilizing. They're building something on the surface. Our sensors indicate it could be a defensive structure or possibly a launch platform. They're adapting faster than expected," Jack acknowledged. "But that works in our favor." "How could this possibly benefit us?" Trill demanded. Jack smiled grimly. "Because they're reacting exactly how we wanted. Defensively, redirecting resources to counter what they perceive as the primary threat." He turned to his team. "Raj, is the main dispersal system ready?" "Primed and waiting, Captain." "Mira, Have you recalibrated the compound based on the new adaptation we observed? She nodded. Version 2.0 is loaded. It targets the adapted exoskeleton structure specifically. Jack turned back to the bewildered Admiral. You see, Admiral, we never expected the first attack to succeed. We needed to see how they'd adapt. Now we know, and we've prepared accordingly. Understanding dawned in Trill's compound eyes. You used yourselves as bait to test their defenses. Oldest trick in the pest control handbook, Tom said with a grin. Make them show their hand. Jack moved to the ship's control console. Now, we deliver the real treatment. Admiral, I suggest you inform the Council that Proxys 4 is about to be reclaimed. With the push of a button, thousands of specially designed canisters launched from the exterminator, descending toward the scourge-infested moon in a beautiful, deadly rain. 3 weeks later, Jack stood before the full Galactic Council. The vast chamber was filled to capacity, representatives from hundreds of species eager to hear the outcome of humanity's unprecedented approach to the scourge threat. Proxys 4 has been completely cleared of scourge infestation, Jack announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Our follow-up teams have confirmed 0 active specimens remaining. The moon is ready for reclamation. A stunned silence fell over the assembly, followed by a wave of murmurs. Elder Vox leaned forward. Explain your methods, Captain Reed. How did you accomplish in 3 weeks what our combined forces couldn't achieve in a year? Jack gestured to Mira, who activated a holographic display showing the stages of their operation. The key was understanding. That the scourge operates as a superorganism, she explained. Previous military approaches treated them as individual enemies to be destroyed, which triggered their adaptive defenses. Instead, Jack continued, we targeted their systems. The bacteriophage disrupted their communication, causing colony-wide confusion. The thermal disruptors stressed their reproductive capacity. And finally, our aerosol compound, delivered in 2 stages, eliminated their ability to maintain their exoskeletons. The brilliance was in the sequence, Admiral Trill added, now an enthusiastic supporter of the human approach. By the time the Scourge realized they were under attack, they had already carried the bacteriophage deep into their colony structure. And the second aerosol compound, asked Counselor Zan, specifically designed to target their adaptation to the first compound, Tom explained. We use their own evolutionary response against them. The council representatives exchanged impressed glances. What about the other infested worlds? Asked a representative from the back of the chamber. Can your methods be applied on a larger scale? Absolutely, Jack confirmed. We've already prepared detailed protocols for implementation across all affected systems. With council resources, we can clear every scourge infestation within 6 months. Elder Vox rose to his full height. The council acknowledges humanity's extraordinary contribution. As agreed, we extend full membership status to Earth and its colonies. Applause rippled through the chamber. Additionally, Vox continued once the noise subsided, we grant exclusive reclamation rights to the cleared worlds, with the understanding that 10% of all resources will be allocated to the Council's Reparation Fund. Jack nodded in acceptance. A fair arrangement. As the formal proceedings concluded and the council members dispersed, Admiral Trill approached the human team. You've changed everything, she said quietly. Not just regarding the scourge threat, but how the council perceives emerging species. We're just doing what humans have always done, Jack replied modestly. Adapting and overcoming. Perhaps. Trill's compound eyes studied him carefully. But I suspect there's more to humanity than pest control expertise. Jack smiled enigmatically. One step at a time, Admiral. First, let's rid the galaxy of these bugs. Then we can talk about what else humans are good at. As the human team departed, heading back to their ship for the journey to the next infested world, rumors already spread throughout the council species. The universe had sought pest control, and found in humanity not just exterminators, but a species whose evolutionary history had prepared them perfectly for survival in a hostile galaxy. In the coming years, the galaxy would learn that humans were indeed specialists in removing threats, whether insectoid, microbial, or predatory. Their elevation from unclassified curiosity to full council members marked the beginning of a new era. The universe had wanted pest control. What it got was humanity, adaptable, resourceful, and possessed of a unique perspective shaped by millennia of fighting for their place on a world teeming with competitors. As Jack had told his crew before their mission, they weren't soldiers, they were exterminators, and that made all the difference. Throughout Council space, species that had once viewed humans with suspicion now watched with newfound respect as the former exterminators from Earth systematically eliminated the galaxy's most terrifying threat, proving that sometimes the most effective solution isn't the most advanced, but the most experienced.